right, and we are live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome in. Got a big slate to go over tonight, so looking forward to getting into it. 11 gamers, so plenty to go through. Going to be plenty of options. Always going to make you preferably like your lineup. The bigger the slate, the more confident you should feel about your lineup. But there's a lot more work that goes into it, obviously, a lot more options. So we're going to go ahead and break down some of the top options on this slate tonight. As always, on DraftKings and FanDuel. So welcome in. Patrick, the Prince, Drew, what's going on, guys? Trying to get in that big money tonight for sure. So I'm going to do, as always, a little bit of a game-by-game breakdown, figure out some of our top plays. And then as you guys have questions in the chat, certainly feel free to ask them, and I will get to them. So, quick little overview right now of what we're looking at as far as our injury news and everything. I don't think anything's too crazy on the slate tonight that we're waiting on. So, this New York Knicks-Charlotte game looks pretty healthy for the most part. Just P.J. Washington listed as out. Nerlens Noel listed as questionable, which I guess is a little bit of relevant news here. That might lead to some more playing time for a guy like a Taj Gibson, who we could possibly capitalize on playing at a very cheap price tag at only minimum salary on DraftKings, $3K. FanDuel, not sure what he is, but I'm sure he's pretty cheap over there as well. So if Nerlens Noel is out, he could be an interesting option as a salary relief guy, especially on DraftKings at that minimum salary. Just going to be very easy to get there at his price tag for a big man. He should be able to grab plenty of rebounds. Last time out, 9 rebounds. The time before that, 8 rebounds. And when you're getting that amount of rebound volume, hopefully he can make a few buckets. And then if he's this cheap, that will certainly not hurt our feelings. So that's the first place to look to. Overall, this first game is going to be great from a game environment aspect, especially on the Knicks side of things. The Charlotte side just continues to not be the strongest defensively, so I certainly think this is going to be a bit of a breakout game. We do have Kemba Walker, who's recently been struggling, going back home to Charlotte, which I do think is something that actually matters in this case. Kemba Walker, big Charlotte Hornets guy. I think every time he goes back there, he's going to want to put on a show. And for that reason, that's certainly something that I'm willing to take note of, and I certainly have interest in Kemba Walker tonight. Continues to be underpriced, especially on FanDuel. He's $5K on DraftKings. I think that he could certainly surpass that price tag. When you look over on FanDuel, Kemba Walker's priced all the way down to $4.6. So I certainly think that Kemba Walker could be an intriguing option tonight on both websites. And it's just a matter of time before he has a big game at his price tag. He's only put up 22.1 and 7 FanDuel points the last 2 times out. After putting up 38, 33, 40 3 times in a row, he's just kind of gone downhill. I tend to think this is the spot where he can bounce back. Charlotte hasn't been good defensively. I'm sure he's going to be highly motivated to put on a show. I like Kemba Walker in this spot, so he's certainly someone that I'll be looking to tonight for sure. And someone that I'm interested in having in my lineup, so he's one guy I'd be looking to. Moving further along here, we do have some other guys in this game as well. Like I said, it should be pretty fast-paced. Kemba Walker, Derrick Rose, Evan Fournier continue to be all priced very cheaply. All those guys continue to have a lot of upside for the price tag. Of course, Julius Randle, he's priced up, but for good reason. Going to be a great game environment, great matchup for Julius Randle. Should have plenty of opportunities to shine. And like I said, it's just green across my sheet as far as the matchup's concerned. Taking on Charlotte, certainly a great matchup for this New York Knicks team. And certainly one that I'm going to want to be capitalizing on. One of the fastest paced totals on the slate. It's a 224. You can look at the rest of the slate. You're looking at approximately low 200s to, right in the beginning of the 220s. And then once you get towards the end of the slate, same thing. Right in the beginning of the 220s. And the Golden State Warriors, Minnesota Timberwolves game, Los Angeles Lakers. So those games are the ones that I'm tending to want to target for sure. And that we'll discuss as we move along the slate here. So, yeah, Julius Randle, certainly I'm interested on the Charlotte side. They are pretty much fully healthy and they are pretty appropriately priced. So it's a little bit more difficult to have interest on their side of things. But once again, should be a good game environment. So you would hope that we could probably have interest in a couple of these guys. And if we're going to, like I said, probably going to have to pay a little bit more of an appropriate price for them, unfortunately, in this one. But LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier, both going to be intriguing guard plays. Gordon Hayward at 6'6", certainly standing out to me. Both on DraftKings and FanDuel. He just continues to be priced right in this mid-range. Good fantasy point producer. He's playing plenty of minutes. Mid-30s to upper 30 minutes. So he's one that would stand off the page right away to me in the mid-range. for this one. And then if you're paying up, it's going to be LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges. They're the two highest priced guys on their team, and for good reason. They've been producing at the highest rate. The only really concern is that this team's fully healthy, and it's either they really dominate and go off and you get what you pay for, or it's kind of more spread out, and in which case I'd much rather target the cheaper guys on the Charlotte side of things, because why would I want to target the higher priced guys when everything's spread out, if you follow me. So that's kind of the two ways that this game could go, what I'd be looking to in this first game. Milwaukee taking on Boston, second game on the slate. This one should be a pretty defensive-heavy matchup. Not getting too excited about it from a fantasy point aspect, to be honest with you, outside of the fact that the Milwaukee Bucks continue to be without Brook Lopez and Chris Middleton, and on the Boston Celtics side, they continue to be without Jaylen Brown. So outside of the fact that those two guys are dealing with injuries and that's opening up a bit more usage, I really don't like this game too much from a fantasy point perspective. I do think that Drew Holiday and Bobby Portis continue to be underpriced for their respective roles, as mentioned, for the news that there is no Chris Middleton still. There is no Brook Lopez still. So those two guys specifically are certainly standing out to me from a usage aspect at their respective price tags on both sites. And I'd be much more willing to go to them in a slower pace game than I would like a Giannis. This game is nationally televised, which is something I keep forgetting to bring up, and I kid you not, that's kind of a thing in NBA in my years of experience. I've been playing since 2016. Whenever there's a nationally televised game, it tends to be more usage coming out of the stars, like a Giannis Antetokounmpo, like a Jason Tatum. Let's not be in denial here. These guys know they're on the big stage. They know they're on national television. They want to put out on the show. So that is something that I always do factor in to my lineups, honestly, and something I've been failing to double check for prior to lock. Something I'm going to continue to keep an eye on. So it's this Milwaukee Bucks game, and then the Golden State Warriors and the Chicago game that are going to be on national television tonight on ESPN. So both those games, certainly, I think it's on ESPN. It might be TNT, but regardless, I do look at nationally televised games, and I certainly do pay attention to it. The Claw 28, what's going on, man? Welcome in. How you been? Doing all right? Patrick says smash the like button. Yes, sir. Please do. If you guys are enjoying this content, take a second to hit that like button. It goes a long way in helping me out. I'll be here all NBA season long, break down these slates, help you guys win some money. The only other thing I'll mention in this game is Dennis Schroeder and Marcus Smart. Also probably continuing to be underpriced for their respective role. With there being no more Jaylen Brown, both these guys should get a bump up in their usage. So do have interest in both of those guys, certainly. Next game on the slate is Detroit taking on Cleveland. We did get news that Colin Sexton is going to be out for the foreseeable future. We did get news that Kelly Olynyk's going to be out as well. That's certainly going to give a bump up to guys in this rotation. Specifically on the Detroit side, immediately we're going to be taking a hard look at Mr. Isaiah Stewart. He should be starting at the center position now. Should boost his upside even more. He's been continuously getting 8, 7, 8, 9, right around 10 rebounds a game. This should just open up some more rebounding upside for him and scoring upside in the starting lineup. So I certainly do have interest in Isaiah Stewart here going forward on the Detroit side of things. And then, of course, with there being no Kelly Olynyk, that's just going to open up more rebounding upside and more usage upside for a guy like a Josh Jackson off the bench as a sixth man. Jeremiah Grant, Sadiq Bey, Cade Cunningham, those three guys are going to continue to dominate quite a bit of usage. And on the Cleveland side of things, we do have a pretty consistent rotation as well. Cleveland continuing to be out with, of course, Colin Sexton. They were already without Kevin Love and Lauri Markkanen. Now all three of those guys are going to be out. These games that they've been playing in have been very slow paced. This one only comes with a 200.5 over-under. That's going to be the lowest total on the slate, so that's a little bit unfortunate as far as targeting this game. You know, when you're paying up for a guy like a Jared Allen at 7-7 or the more expensive guys in this game, you know it's a slower paced game, so that's a little bit less than ideal for us here. However, the minutes are going to be very solidified on this Cleveland side. We're continuing to see Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Darius Garland. Now that Colin Sexton's out, Ricky Rubio is going to get a bump up as well, playing around 30 minutes a game. So all these guys can be very confident in their minutes, which of course is going to help their upside and the comfortability, both their floor and their ceiling for us. So I do like these guys strictly from a minutes upside aspect. And then as far as their actual production, I mean, like I said, this game isn't exactly expected to be the fastest pace, unfortunately. But you got to kind of factor in both. There's not much of a threat of anyone stealing the minutes on this Cleveland side. On the Detroit side, it just became even more open with the injuries they're dealing with as well. I think Jeremiah Grant's going to have more rebounding upside. I think that Sadiq Bey should have more rebounding upside and usage upside with these injuries. Not that Kelly Olynyk's the biggest usage guy, but just the fact of the matter is, the more guys you take out of the rotation, the more usage that's going to be spread around, the more minutes that's going to be spread around, and naturally, there's a domino effect going down to these guys. And I think that Cade Cunningham at 5'6" continues to be priced pretty reasonably as well. You could certainly be taking a look to him tonight on DraftKings and on FanDuel. Isaiah Stewart grading out as my top play on FanDuel right now from an upside for his price tag aspect. He's priced at 4.8. I also do like him quite a bit over here on DraftKings at only 4.3. The only thing I would throw in is on DraftKings, Tony Bradley's minimum salary on the Chicago side of things. And we did get confirmation that they're going to be without their starting center in Nikola Vucevic. So that's something we'll talk about as we go along the slate here. So Detroit Cleveland's a little bit of a catch-22 because it's the slowest paced game on the slate, but they're both dealing with injuries. The minutes should be solidified, so we're probably going to want to have some interest in these teams for that reason. Favorite play on the Detroit side would be Isaiah Stewart based upon his price tag. Favorite play on the Cleveland side on DraftKings here based upon their price tag right now. Let's see here. Honestly, I'm not seeing anything grayed out too well in Cleveland, which is pretty reasonable considering the pace of this game. So, yeah. Some value to be had. Some not so good game environment here, though. Next game on the slate, Portland taking on Houston. This one's going to be a pretty decent pace game. Damian Lillard comes in at 9.8. This game right now comes in with a total of, let's see here. It's a 222.5 over-under with a 6.5 point spread in favor of the Portland Trailblazers. So should be a pretty fast-paced up-tempo game here. Should stay pretty close. All the reasons we're looking for to have interest in targeting guys in our lineups. We have Damian Lillard. We have CJ McCollum on the Portland side of things. We know the usage is going to be there. We are waiting on some news for Norman Powell and Kevin Porter Jr. Norman Powell is listed as a true questionable. That will certainly bump up some more usage on the Portland side of things. You should see Nazir Little get the start most likely at only 3-2, get some more playing time. So he would certainly become a bit of a value play. And then Kevin Porter Jr. listed as questionable is more so probable in this one. He has been a little bit inconsistent, but his upside's always going to be there. I certainly do have interest in him at only this 6.4 price tag. I do think that he's an interesting option alongside, the other guy that's the main candidate on usage in Christian Wood at 9K. Game's expected to stay close. Guys have been producing at a high rate. They really just, some of these teams have been getting blown out so much. I don't think that's going to be a problem in this one. So I certainly do have interest in Christian Wood. Drew Elvick asks, do you think Kemba or Cunningham would be the better play tonight on FanDuel? On FanDuel, I do have Kemba Walker grading out as my better play. He's just too cheap. He's only 4.6. So for that reason, I certainly do lean Kemba. Keep in mind that answer is, I'm giving you an answer on upside for price tag. That's how I grade out all my plays. So if you're looking for a floor play or something like a cash game play, my answer might differ from that. But right now, Kemba Walker would be my answer there. By a pretty sizable margin, honestly. Once again, based upon price tag and upside at that price tag, though. All right, so yeah, this game's pretty straightforward as who you're going through. It's Christian Wood. It's Kevin Porter Jr. On the Portland side, if there is no Norman Powell, I do think that's pretty significant news. He's a guy that should free up even more usage for a CJ McCollum and a Damian Lillard. You take him out of the rotation, these guys should have to be able to have even higher ceiling games. So I certainly would keep an eye on that Norman Powell news. If we do get confirmation that he's out, we'll have a lot more interest in them. We'll have some more interest in a Anthony Simmons as well, or Simons, I don't know how you pronounce it. Would have more interest in him, and I would certainly have more interest in Robert Covington at 4-2. So yeah, that's pretty significant news in this game. That's expected to be a pretty high-scoring, high up-tempo game. You have Jayshawn Tate, Jalen Green continuing to be decent rotation guys as well on the Houston side of things. Priced at respectable price tags. So certainly no issues with you going to them at the price tags that they have right now because they're pretty cheap. Phoenix taking on Memphis. This game, we continue to be without DeAndre Ayton. I think we did get confirmation on that. He is doubtful, so JaVale McGee and Frank Kaminsky are going to continue to step in. We've continued to see JaVale McGee not exactly play the most amount of minutes. They're starting him, but then they're pulling him pretty quickly, and it has been Frank the Tank Kaminsky who's pretty much taking over here. 5-5 on DraftKings. You continue to see his price tag climb, but for good reason. We saw him put up 46 DraftKings points last time out, 31 real-life points, so this guy has a lot of upside, and then you factor in the matchup. The Memphis defense has been absolutely terrible to start the season. continuing to target them. I certainly have interest in targeting them because they just have not been good. Looking at my defensive key stats over here on my Patreon package as far as their overall ranks and everything, Memphis are currently grading out as 30th in points per possession rank across the league, 29th at half-court points per play given up. And as far as their transition stats, they haven't been much better. 22nd in all transition points per play rank and 23rd in transition points per play frequency, meaning they're allowing teams to get out on the break, not doing a good job of slowing them down and making them go to the half-court setting. So I certainly do have interest in the Phoenix Suns side of things. And Frank Kaminsky is, grading out as a great play at his respective price tag because he's just going to continue to be too cheap until we get confirmation that DeAndre Ayton's back. And then Devin Booker and Chris Paul both seem to be in great spots as well tonight. If this game stays close, which I do think it will, they should be able to have plenty of upside in their price tags. The 222.5 over under, it's a 1.5 point spread. Everything kind of lining up here for the two main usage guys that have big games. I'm not worried about Memphis' defense whatsoever. They're going to continue to get the usage they've been receiving. The only thing I would say is they were priced a little bit more friendly recently, so of course that's not going to help our cases at all for wanting to play them, but kind of got to roll with the punches as far as the pricing. And if you think they can have their big upside game, they're going to be worth the price tag no matter what. So I certainly do have interest in them. We do have another revenge narrative in this one. DeAnthony Melton taking on his former team in the Phoenix Suns. So I do think that DeAnthony Melton, there might be a little bit extra motivation here. And the fact of the matter remains is he's just too cheap for his respective role until Dylan Brooks comes back. I like DeAnthony Melton quite a bit. I believe he's 4-8 on both websites, DK and FanDuel, and he's grading out as a great play for me on both. He's 5K on FanDuel, but I still like him. So yeah, DeAnthony Melton making a lot of sense to me tonight. He's just too cheap for the minutes. You get a little bit of a revenge narrative taking on the former team. Everything lining up for me to certainly like DeAnthony Melton tonight, and I do. So those would be my favorite guys from that game. John Moran at 10K. Of course, he's going to continue to be a great play. Continue to see a bunch of usage. It's just at this price tag, it's not going to take too much for him not to have a good enough game for him to get there at his respective price tag right now. So just keep that in mind. And I don't think that Phoenix is exactly my number one option to be targeting. Like I said, though, this game is expected to stay close. If it's going to stay close, I'm sure that's going to be in big part due to him. And confirming where Phoenix ranks as far as my defensive stats over here on Patreon. They are 14th in the league right now overall in points per possession rank. So not the worst, not the best, but overall I do think that Phoenix is a pretty good defensive team. They're grading out much better in the half court than in transition though. So the guys that can truly push the ball in transition for the Memphis Grizzlies, like a John Morant, might be able to have an upside game here. So that would be the counter argument. But yeah, certainly have more interest in targeting the Memphis defense than the Phoenix defense. And I'm certainly interested in targeting some Frank Kaminsky tonight. Some Mikal Bridges a little bit. Not quite as much interested in targeting him as I do in Frank Kaminsky, though. So Sacramento taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder. This game right now, as far as the total is concerned, we know Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be the top guy on the Oklahoma City side of things. Game comes in with a 219 over-under. 5-point spread in favor of the Sacramento Kings, so expected to stay close. Decently paced game for the slate. And on the Oklahoma City side of things, if it is expected to stay close, that's going to make us have interest in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Josh Giddey, Darius Bazley. We know exactly where all the usage and minutes is going on this side of things. Really, the only thing that's holding back Oklahoma City is when they get blown out. So if the game is expected to stay close, that's something that I certainly take a big note of when it comes to the Oklahoma City side of things. Because I think that's when these guys are going to have their biggest games, obviously. If they get blown out and they're pulled early, not going to have quite the ceiling that they would if they were in there the whole time. So I do certainly have a lot more interest in these Oklahoma City Thunder guys than I would typically in some of these other games we've seen them involved in. Darius Bazley, Giddey, both going to have a lot of upside in close games. Lou Dort, you can make an argument for at 4-5 as well. Certainly have no issues with you going there. And we've seen Derek Favors play right around like 20 minutes a game. That's not quite going to be enough to do it for me in my upside as far as tournaments are concerned. So I'm not quite as interested in him. And I'm not quite as interested on the Sacramento side either, strictly from a depth aspect. They do have a lot more guys competing for rotation minutes, usage, all that stuff. One big piece of news is Halliburton. If he's out, that's certainly going to make me have a lot more interest in Buddy Hield and a lot more interest in the Sacramento side of things. If Halliburton's in, I won't have quite as much interest. If he's out, Buddy Hield, Mitchell, all going to take a big bump up in their respective usage. De'Aaron Fox, Harrison Barnes, Rashawn Holmes, they'd all get a big bump up here. After being involved in a blowout last game, taking on the Spurs, expect their minutes to be back up to where they should be in this one. Drew asks, tournament mainly, and that's what I was assuming in pace of games. Yeah, man. Tournament games, to answer your question, I would go with Kemba Walker. And like I said, I'm doing that based off a multiplier metric in my projection system that if you are interested in getting, you can get over here on Patreon. You get access to all of my projections, the Discord chat. You can ask me questions up to lock. Otherwise, you can see here on the live stream. I'll be here all season. Hit that like button if you're enjoying the content. Right now we have 4 likes, trying to get 20 likes on every live stream. So if you guys are enjoying, if you could do that, that'd be awesome. Thank you very much. And the next game we're going to talk about here is Brooklyn taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. This game right now comes in with a total of 214.5 with an 8.5 point spread in favor of the Brooklyn Nets. So this is the game. Out of all the games on the slate and all the games we discussed so far, we are concerned a little bit about a blowout in favor of the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets are expected to take care of business here pretty easily. So, of course, that's not going to be ideal for us in our upside if the game does blow out. Obviously, we hope it doesn't. But if it does, there's a solid chance we know who's going to be doing it. It's James Harden or Kevin Durant. Both of these guys are going to be the top usage guys on the Brooklyn side of things. I'm not scared about the New Orleans Pelicans defense whatsoever. They should be able to continue their role. But like I always say, if the game doesn't stay close, you're probably only going to want to pick one of these guys. They're both going to have a very hard time getting there, especially if the game doesn't stay close. If the game stays close, there's a possibility they both get there. But even then, it's a little bit questionable. And speaking of questionable, so is Brandon Ingram. He's questionable. He's able to participate in a full practice Thursday. So I tend to think he'll be back. It's a back-to-back set here coming up for the Pelicans. So maybe he just sits out for this one and comes back tomorrow. But regardless, this is some pretty big news for us. We need confirmation on whether he's in or whether he's out. If he's in, of course, that's going to shake things up in the rotation. It could make a much stronger case for this game staying close, so that'd be one positive thing, but the negative thing would be Devontae Graham, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Josh Hart, Jonas Valanciunas. All these guys are going to take a big hit in their usage. And if this game's going to stay close, a lot of these guys are going to have big games. So I do think I have quite a bit of interest on the Pelican side of things, especially if there is no Brandon Ingram. Just keep in mind, if you're making multiple lineups, you're probably going to want to play some lineups with these guys in it, assuming that this game stays close, and some lineups without any of them in it, assuming the game blows out, because if the game blows out, of course, they're not going to get to their upside, and that's going to cost you in your lineups. But it's a risk I'm willing to take against a Brooklyn squad that's not the greatest defensively, especially if there's no Brandon Ingram. Certainly do have interest in Jonas Valanciunas. Dallas taking on San Antonio Spurs. Next game on the slate. This game right now comes in with a 219.5 over under. It's a 2.5 point spread in favor of the Dallas Mavericks. So this will be the next one on the slate. Drew says, hey, I need that year round for all the sports, but subscribe to baseball and football. Might as well add basketball. Yeah, Drew, you can actually, I do have an all sports package now where you can get all of those at a discount. I don't know if you've checked out my Patreon since, so I'll actually pull that up for you just to give you an idea of what I have to offer and all that stuff. But you can get all sports now year round, just like you said, with a monthly price, and you get access to all sports. So I'll pull that up for you here real quick. So I have the NBA. I have the Discord package now as well for only $9.99. If you just want to hop in the Discord, you can ask me questions all the way up to lock. That's what I'll be doing after the live stream. I always hop in the Discord when I'm updating my projections and my core plays and all that stuff. So yeah, the NBA package by itself is $19.99. And then if you want to go the NFL package, that's also $19.99. I also have the all sports package, which is $34.99. And like I said, that includes all packages. And if you sign up for the annual option on any of these packages, you get 2 free months of Patreon. So when you sign up for the annual, you pay ahead of time. I'll essentially give you a refund back for your 2 months free, and you'll be rocking and rolling. So check that out if you're interested. Those are the options right there. And there probably wasn't an all sports option before when you checked it out. So I love Jonas Valanciunas versus the Nets bigs. Yeah, man, Jonas Valanciunas has been an absolute fantasy point per beast, Patrick. So certainly no issues with you going to him. This Dallas San Antonio Spurs game. So Luka Doncic priced up at 11-1. He's the top priced guy in this game. This game right now comes in with a 219.5 over under a 2.5 point spread in favor of the Dallas Mavericks. So expected to stay close. The only thing is with Kristaps Porzingis being back, there's going to continue to be a hit on the usage of Luka Doncic. Kristaps Porzingis continues to be priced very friendly. He's been somewhat limited in his minutes, but his minutes continue to climb. He played 28, 26 minutes the first couple times back. Now he played 32 minutes last time out. And his price tag continues to dip on DraftKings. He's down to 6.6. I'm not really sure why his price tag is going down. So I certainly have interest there. And then as far as FanDuel is concerned, looking at Mr. Kristaps Porzingis, I'm sure he's pretty reasonably priced over here as well. 7-1. So not quite as friendly price, but still for his upside at that price tag, I certainly have interest in Kristaps Porzingis. No issues with the going him. I think he continues to be underpriced across the industry. So no issues with the going to him whatsoever. But specifically, like I said, on DraftKings, he's just a little too cheap. So I certainly would take advantage over there. As far as anyone else in this game, with Kristaps Porzingis being back, it's certainly going to limit my interest a little bit on the Dallas side of things. Like I said, I'm not going to have nearly as much interest in Luka Doncic for his price tag. Jalen Brunson was a guy I was playing a lot when there was no Kristaps Porzingis. He continues to produce a lot off the bench, so he could certainly be an interesting option. I just think the likelihood of him getting that long run, long usage, like high usage upside isn't quite as likely because Kristaps is going to be in there now for half the rotation, half the game, to kind of take away from Brunson's minutes. So not nearly as interested in him as I used to be. On the San Antonio Spurs side of things, there continues to be no Jakob Poeltl, so that's going to continue to open up some more minutes for Thaddeus Young. Priced pretty appropriately for the most part, based upon the fact that he's playing like low 20 minutes, but he has a lot of upside. He produces at a very high rate when he's out there on the court. At 5.7 on DraftKings, let's go ahead and pull up what he's been producing on a per minute rate for you guys on the big screen here. Going down to Thaddeus Young, you can see he's been putting up 1.23 DK points per minute. So that's very, very good. It's really just a matter of if he's actually able to get that maximum upside while he's in there, because his minutes are somewhat limited. So it's kind of a catch-22 playing him. But I certainly have interest in him. Just know there's a little bit of risk involved because he's not getting the maximum amount of minutes. But the production's there. The role's now there with there being no Jakob Poeltl for a little bit of time here. He should have a lot more minutes in the rotation. Certainly like him. And then you could also be taking a look over here to Keldon Johnson as well at 5'8". He's put up 35, 36, 37 DraftKings points. Certainly grabbing quite a few rebounds. He'd probably be my favorite play at his respective price tag on this team at an upside for his price tag aspect. In this game. So I certainly have interest in Mr. Keldon Johnson. And then if you're looking to the guy that kind of has the full package as far as minutes, upside, all of that fun stuff, you're going to be looking to DeJounte Murray here at 9.4. So he'd be the other guy that I'm looking to. He's just not priced nearly as friendly, but he's the point guard. He gets all the usage for a good reason. He gets plenty of blocks and steals. If you're playing over there on FanDuel where you get 3 points for every blocks and steal, which I talk about a lot, DeJounte Murray is a great play on FanDuel oftentimes because he can rack them up in a hurry, and if he does, you get the 3 points for each one, and that's going to add up very quickly in your tournament lineups. You can see he's put up 2 steals last time, 3 steals, 1 block the time before, 3 steals, 1 block the time before, 2 steals, 1 block the time before. So yeah, that's just kind of proof in the pudding, I guess you could say. Guy's pretty good for a few blocks and steals per game, so I certainly have interest in him on both websites, and like I said, on FanDuel, we get that 3 points. Certainly making a lot of sense to me, and then we continue to be without Maxi Kleber on the Dallas side of things, so that's going to open up a little bit more usage, a little bit more minutes for Dorian Finney-Smith at his price tag. He's playing right around 30 minutes a game. The problem is he's mostly known for his defense, not exactly the top fantasy point producer, so he could certainly get you there on any given night, but he also has a high likelihood of not producing at too high of a rate. Atlanta taking on Denver the next game. Denver continues to be without Jamal Murray, without Michael Porter Jr. We are waiting on a couple questionable tags on the Atlanta side of things with Bogdanovich and also DeAndre Hunter. That's certainly big news. If these guys are out, Kevin Huerter and Cam Reddish are going to continue to see a big bump up in their minutes and usage. Kevin Huerter last time out, putting up a big game, 42 DraftKings points, and I'd look for more of the same if those two guys are out in this game. He's just going to get a lot more shot volume, a lot more opportunity, a lot more minutes. Shot 18 times last time out, and he was only 3.5, so it's going to be very easy for him to get you there at his respective price tag on DraftKings, especially where you get the bonus for the three-pointer, so I certainly like Kevin Huerter. And then Cam Reddish as well at only 3.9 will get a big bump up in minutes and usage. 30 minutes last time out. He didn't put up quite the biggest game, but keep in mind he was taking on that Utah Jazz defense. One of the best defenses in the league, so I wouldn't get too hung up on that. And I certainly think he could have a big game tonight if he's given the opportunity, if those guys miss. So that's certainly big news. On the Denver side of things, it's going to continue to be Jokic, Will Barton, Aaron Gordon, my main candidates for the usage, especially now that there's no Michael Porter Jr. This offense should really flow through those three guys. Those three guys should have a bunch of upside. And those three guys are going to continue to be a priority for me on my lineups. It just makes sense. Will Barton, Nikola Jokic, Aaron Gordon, all could have huge upside. Monte Morris as well. Hasn't had the biggest games throughout the season, to be honest. Has been taking a bit of a back seat, but it's just a matter of time or the right night that he could. So I wouldn't hate playing him. Certainly would rather prioritize Nikola Jokic, Aaron Gordon, Will Barton. But if you want to go there, I wouldn't call you crazy. I think you could have a big upside game. And then on the Atlanta side of things, if there's no Bogdanovich or Hunter, that would also increase the usage for John Collins, Trae Young, the main guys. Naturally, they get the most amount of usage on the team. You take away usage, and they're just going to give you more usage. So those guys make a lot of sense from upside to aspect as well, especially if we get confirmation they're out. Clint Capella and John Collins continue to be negative correlated, in my opinion. I say this a lot, but when there's two bigs or two guys that are kind of taken away from each other's rebounding usage, or rebounding upside, I should say, usage overall, I don't really want to play them in the same lineup. I'll play John Collins in some lineups. I'll play Clint Capella in the other lineups. I'm not trying to limit my upside by playing the two guys that are fighting for rebounds. It just doesn't quite make sense. So yeah, wait on the Atlanta news. That's certainly big news. That could adjust some things. Chicago taking on Golden State Warriors. We already got confirmation that Nikola Vucevic is out. That should slide Tony Bradley into a starting role and give Elias Johnson, Derek Jones Jr., and Javonte Green more minutes and upside. So that's certainly big news. And those guys, you could definitely be taking a hard look to tonight. Derek Jones Jr., he's only 3-1. If he gets more minutes, he could certainly outproduce that price tag. Elias Johnson, he's been getting like 10 minutes a game. He should certainly get more minutes, certainly have interest in him. And lastly, Mr. Bradley, who's priced all the way down to minimum salary, should be able to quite easily outperform that price tag. All the way down to minimum salary as starting center. And it's not like Tony Bradley's a pushover. I mean, Tony Bradley's got some pretty good talent. He hasn't quite been able to work his way into a starting role, but always did a very good job of filling in off the bench when he was with the Utah Jazz. Now he's on the Chicago Bulls. Should give even more opportunity and usage with there being no Nikola Vucevic in this one. So I certainly have interest in Tony Bradley. And, kind of an obvious plug-and-play value play tonight. James Wiseman continues to be out. Damian Lee's listed as questionable on the Golden State Warriors side as well. So that would be more minutes for Gary Payton and Moses Moody if he's out. So that's kind of big news. And Draymond Green listed as questionable. So that's going to open up more minutes for Otto Porter and Juan Toscano Anderson, as well as Bielitsa. So it's actually some pretty big news. It's probably the biggest news we've touched on so far on this slate, the Chicago Golden State Warriors game. We talked about the Pelicans news, but that's pretty, that's going to open up a lot of usage on the Golden State Warriors side of things. In an up-tempo game, Bielitsa's no slouch as far as fantasy point production, so if there's no Draymond Green, he's going to jump right to the top of my priority list. Then you got Andre Iguodala at 3K. There should be plenty of value in this game if those guys miss. And then, like we talked about, you could certainly be taking a look to Gary Payton the second. He's been playing like right around 20, 16 minutes. He would get some more usage if there's no Damian Lee. And then the other part would be looking to a Moses Moody as well. Looking at his minutes in the rotation. He's been playing like 5 minutes a game or so. And we just got some big news. Giannis Antetokounmpo just got ruled out. That's some pretty big news here, guys. Right when we thought everything was pretty laid back, we did get confirmation Nerlens Noel is out as well. But Giannis being out, that's some big news. Obviously, he's the top usage guy on the Milwaukee side of things. That's just going to make these other guys absolute smash plays. Drew Holiday, absolute smash play. Bobby Portis, absolute smash play now with there being no Giannis. They're going to be top priorities for me, for sure. We're going to get all these guys with more usage on the Milwaukee side of things. So we're going to be looking to Drew Holiday, George Hill, Grayson Allen, Bobby Portis, Pat Connaughton, Jordan Nwora, Semi Ojeleye could be an interesting option. Rodney Hood, Thanasis Antetokounmpo, with of course our top options being Drew Holiday, and Bobby Portis, and I mean, yeah, those two guys are the first two options for sure. But then Grayson Allen, George Hill, and Pat Connaughton, Jordan Nwora, whoever we get confirmation on starting, but the other guys as well. That's the big news. Like I was talking about this game, I said I didn't really have too much interest because it's a slow-paced game and the sides were pretty healthy. But now it's a slow-paced game and you take Giannis out of the equation. That's some big news. So I'll be updating my projections for my Patreon members, my core plays, all that stuff. Certainly keep an eye on it. But yeah, Bobby Portis becomes one of the best plays on the slate. Jrue Holiday becomes one of the best plays on the slate. These other guys, a Grayson Allen, a George Hill, all these guys are going to get a bump up in usage. Going to be needed to keep this game close and going to be great value plays. So that's some big news. We'll be adjusting accordingly. And yeah, big news. So we'll be updating all the projections, looking at some value on the Milwaukee side. We'll be keeping our eyes on the news too. That's the biggest news on the slate so far by far. So that's certainly big news. There is no Giannis Antetokounmpo tonight. So be adjusting your lineups accordingly. All right, and yeah, the other big news, like I talked about, this Golden State Warriors game, that's big news. Draymond Green being listed as questionable, certainly big news. And the last game on the slate, Minnesota taking on the LA Lakers. Anthony Davis is listed as questionable. He is more so probable, though, so expect him to be able to good to go here. And we should have a lot of interest in Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook. There continues to be no LeBron James in this one. They're going to continue to get a lot of usage. Both guys have massive ceilings. I know Russell Westbrook was struggling big time early on in the season. We've since seen him go out there and put up 2 triple-doubles the last 2 times out, 60 and 69 DraftKings points. I think you're going to continue to see more of the same tonight. I'm not worried about the Minnesota defense whatsoever. And I certainly have a lot of interest in both Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis. Of course, the more value we get, the easier it's going to be able to fit these studs in. And we're getting quite a bit of value. We got the Milwaukee side. We're waiting on the Pelicans news. We're waiting on the Warriors news. We already got confirmation on the Bulls that Nikola Vucevic is out. That's going to open up some more value for us on the Chicago side of things. So we certainly have interest in the cheap guys, like I talked about in the Derrick Jones Jr., Amir Johnson, Elias Johnson, Andre Iguodala. Those guys will become more viable plays as well. And then I think Alex Caruso could ironically get a bit of a bump up here. We're still waiting on the return of Kobe White. So until Kobe White comes back, I think that he could continue to see a bit more usage with there being no Nikola Vucevic in this one. I know Nikola Vucevic is a center and they don't directly correlate necessarily, but they should still correlate from a usage aspect. So yeah, I do have interest there. And the last game, Minnesota taking on LA, like I said, Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis going to be great plays. Carmelo Anthony should continue to see a bunch of usage with there being no LeBron James as well, and he's seeing a bunch of minutes. So all three of those guys certainly going to make a lot of sense to me. And then you can run it back with Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, and D'Angelo Russell. Those are the 3 big main usage guys on the Minnesota side. Those would be by far the guys that I have the most interest in. And realistically, you can only play either 1 or 2 of them. All 3 of them getting there is going to be kind of tough at their respective price tags. So that'd be my rule of thumb there. All right, guys, so that's a quick little breakdown of the overall slate. We're going to be waiting on our news. I'll be taking questions the last 20 minutes of this stream. Giannis is out. If you didn't know, that's some big news. Certainly going to change up the slate. Jrue Holiday, Bobby Portis become great value plays. We're going to be looking at some other values on their side of things. And, I mean, keep in mind, the other thing is Chris Middleton's already out. So, yeah, Jrue Holiday, Bobby Portis, just Grayson Allen. This entire Milwaukee side is going to be priorities for me. So I certainly have interest in them. All right, guys, we're going to be hanging out for another 20 minutes. Please ask any questions you have in the chat. Please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. That would be greatly appreciated. Going to give you guys my updates as we go along here. Obviously, with there being no Giannis, that is big news. So that's going to shake some things up here. Certainly like Jrue Holiday a lot. Certainly like Bobby Portis a lot. And then when we get confirmation on the starting lineup, whoever fills in, going to have interest in them. And then we'll know who's coming off the bench as the 6th man. And we should be good. Patch Gas, is $4 players too much? I don't know what site you're playing on, and I don't know the format you're playing on, Patrick, but I think you typically play on both. And I don't think 4 players is too much depending upon your build and the price tag of which players you're going with. I don't think 4 players is too much, no. They're that short-handed now, so, I mean, 4 valid players. You could play Drew Holiday, Bobby Portis, Grayson Allen, and George Hill, Pat Connaughton, Jordan Nwora. Yeah, I don't think 4 players is too much. Certainly 3 players is not too much. 4 players, you're starting to get a little bit heavy on their exposure, but the fact of the matter is we're taking Giannis out of the rotation. We already had a shorthanded team as well, with there being no Chris Middleton. So I certainly don't think you're crazy for playing 4 people from their team. Probably going to be Thanasis Antetokounmpo filling in next to Bobby Portis, Grayson Allen, Drew Holiday, George Hill. Then Pat Connaughton, Jordan Nwora are going to get a bunch of usage off the bench alongside Rodney Hood probably. So those guys at the bench too, don't underestimate that. Like, there's no Dante DiVincenzo, there's no Chris Middleton. I got like a Pat Connaughton. He's only 4K on DraftKings. He put up 44 DraftKings points last time out. He's going to have a huge amount of usage. He might get disrespected in his ownership because he's coming off the bench, and if that's the case, I would certainly encourage you to have a lot of exposure to him. If people aren't playing him just because he's coming off the bench, they're absolutely crazy because, like, a good way of summing this up, guys. So you have Pat Connaughton, right, who's an absolute three-point sharpshooter, and then you compare it to who's on the floor. Thanasis Antetokounmpo, really kind of just a defense guy, a fill-in guy that can really be a solid body out there for defense, but he's not exactly the top scorer. So, like, there's a solid chance he could just be running around out there playing defense, maybe grabbing a rebound here and there, not doing that much. And then Bobby Portis, Pat Connaughton, Grayson Allen, Drew Holiday produce, like, all the scoring, and you're getting all the upside in a Pat Connaughton off the bench. So, I don't think you're going to get him too low-owned. With all the tools and stuff out there now that people are using, projections and all that stuff, I would be willing to bet that Pat Connaughton probably gets a decent amount of ownership, but if for some reason people aren't talking about him because he's not starting, I certainly think that's a massive mistake, and you should have plenty of exposure to Pat Connaughton. So certainly have interest in him. Certainly have interest in Grayson Allen. Tons of interest in Drew Holiday and Bobby Portis. They become 2 of the best plays on the slate now. So make sure you're prioritizing them. All right, guys, let me know if you have any more questions. We're going to be hanging out for another 15 minutes or so. Then I'm going to do my final projection run, my core plays, all that stuff on Patreon for my premium members. If you're interested, check that out. Link below in the description. And, yeah. The Prince asks, you found your lock of the day. I didn't have a lock of the day going into this. I wasn't able to release a video earlier in the day. So, I can tell you after that news, my lock of the day is probably going to be either Drew Holiday or Bobby Portis. I would go with Drew Holiday, so I'll just go ahead and call him my lock of the day because he's going to have a lot of on-ball handling responsibilities. He's going to get a big usage bump. He should be out there for plenty of minutes. He's going to be able to give you assists, points. He's pretty well-rounded. He'll give you plenty of steals on a site like FanDuel where you get the 3 points for the steals. So Drew Holiday would certainly probably be my my lock of the night if you were asking me to pick one on the fly right now. It's just going to be in way too good of a spot. Too much usage, too underpriced. And I certainly like Bobby Portis a lot as well. But if you're asking me to come up with a lock of the night on the spot, it will be Drew Holiday of the Milwaukee Bucks. Patrick asks, 4,200 for utility. I got $3. What do you think about Malik Monk? Yeah, Malik Monk could be interesting. If you're on DraftKings, though, I just think there's other places we could look to tonight. He's 3,600. Did play 35 minutes last time out, which is interesting. Yeah, I think that was because of the Rondo news. I know I wasn't covering content that day, so Kendrick Nunn's out. Wasn't Rondo out last time out? He's questionable. Yeah, he sat out Wednesday. Yeah, so that's certainly a good call, Malik Monk, if we do get confirmation that Rajon Rondo's out. If Rajon Rondo's in, that becomes a lot less of a good play. So that's kind of dependent upon the news there, Patrick. Sorry, I can't give you a perfect answer, but that's kind of what we're dealing with there. For the time being, my top utility play, 4,200 or under on DraftKings, would probably have to be Tony Bradley filling in as a starting center. I mean, Tony Bradley's only 3K, but I mean, that's only 3K on DraftKings and possibly your starting center. I'm certainly going to have interest in Tony Bradley. It's just too cheap. All right, guys, let me know if you have any more questions in the chat, please. I'll be hanging out for another 10 minutes if you have any questions. If you don't, I could probably bounce out a little bit early because I have projections update and core plays and questions to answer for my premium members and all that fun stuff. But I want to hang around and give you guys another 10 minutes. If you do have any more questions, please ask them. And I will gladly answer them. The Prince is talking about Avery Bradley. Yeah, if there's no... if there is indeed no Rajon Rondo, he did play 39 minutes. Yeah, so he'd become an intriguing play as well. Yeah, I mean, the Lakers are already shorthanded as is, so that's certainly relevant news. And yeah, guys, that looks like pretty much all the questions we have in the stream. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys 2 more minutes. I'll stick around till 6:20 or so just to make sure we don't miss any questions. But if that's all, if you could please leave a like. If you enjoyed it, that'd be awesome. Greatly appreciated. I don't think we have any more news here. I'd like to hang around if we get more news as well. Knicks are starting Walker, Fournier, Barrett, Randall Robinson. No surprises there. I do continue to like Kemba Walker quite a bit, returning to his old team's stadium, his old team's court, and continuing to be pretty cheaply priced across the industry, so I certainly like him. The Prince has favorite stud, and we have a similar question from Drew. Favorite pay up on FanDuel and favorite least favorite pay up. All right, so favorite stud on both sides. I guess that's a little bit of a loaded question here. We did just lose Giannis from the slate, so keep that in mind. He's no longer in contention for that, so that's certainly big news. My favorite pay-up option. Once again, I'm going to keep this at a upside for price tag answer, so just keep that in mind. I'm not telling you who's going to score the most. I'm telling you who's going to score the most at their respective price tag. And right now, I think my favorite pay-up option is going to be... Of course, I'm going to have to change around my projections right now, but my favorite quote-unquote pay-up option is probably going to be Damian Lillard. Not factoring in lineup build and all that stuff. That's the thing. I got to build my lineups. There might be some value at point guard, but right now I'd say Damian Lillard would be my favorite pay-up option. He's in a fast up-tempo game, especially if we get confirmation there's no Norman Powell. That's just going to increase his usage even more. It's a fast up-tempo game. I think both sides continue to underprice him a little bit because of his early struggling. So I do have interest in Damian Lillard quite a bit on both websites. So he's probably my favorite pay-up option. Keep in mind. And we did just get news that Brandon Ingram is ruled out. So that's going to certainly make me like those Pelicans guys a lot more. So this is good. We're getting some clarification here on some guys we can like. I certainly like the Pelican side a lot more where there being no Brandon Ingram. That should be a big bump up in usage to a lot of these guys on the Pelican side. So Jonas Valanciunas, Devontae Graham, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Josh Hart, all going to become much better plays now. Going to be relied on very heavily to keep this game close. Josh Hart getting ejected last time out, so his weak performance is because he only played 15 minutes and then he got thrown out of the game. So just keep that in mind here. Favorite and least pay up on FanDuel. Well, we just talked about on FanDuel specifically. I guess we can get into this a little bit deeper. My favorite pay up probably would have to be I'd still say Damian Lillard right now, but from a more expensive, it'd probably be Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook continues to be priced pretty friendly on FanDuel specifically, where you get the bonuses for the steals, the blocks, and all that fun stuff. So, yeah, Drew says, "Go Blazers! Good luck, everyone. Good luck, Drew. Best of luck. Thanks for joining the stream today. Appreciate it, man." And yeah, I'm going to be logging off here soon. If you have any more questions, I'm going to give you guys a couple more minutes. Doesn't look like there's too many questions rolling in, though. So if that's the case, I'm going to go ahead, do my final projection run, do my final rankings, and answer any questions I have from my premium members in the Discord chat, and build my own lineups. All right, guys. 6:25. I'll give you guys 3 more minutes to ask any questions you'd like. Please ask them in the chat. We just did get confirmation that there's no Brandon Ingram. We did get confirmation that there is no Giannis Antetokounmpo. So looking pretty straightforward on our news so far. We're waiting on the Draymond Green news late, so certainly keep your eyes on that news. That'll give a big bump up to all the Golden State Warriors guys. Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Poole, and then of course someone's gonna have to fill in for Draymond Green. So if he's out, whoever's filling in for him will likely get a big bump. It's gonna be a lot of Otto Porter Jr., Juan Toscano Anderson, and Bielitsa. So all those guys, I would certainly have quite a bit of interest in here. And yeah, that's kind of what we're waiting on here. So. All right, guys, doesn't look like we have too many other questions coming in. I'm going to let you guys go. Wish you guys all the best of luck tonight. If you are interested in some premium content from me, that is linked below in the description. Patreon.com/KJK_DFS. You get access to all of my projections, my core plays, my rankings, my whatever you want to call them, and then all of my color-coded data sheets with a bunch of good information in there. So, yeah, guys, wish you all the best of luck tonight. That's all from me. We'll see you in the next one. And good luck tonight.